Liu Xiaobo is in prison for drafting a document, a charter calling for basic democratic freedoms enjoyed by people in every part of the world. His wife is under house arrest. A strong and confident country does not fear such people. It sees them as a source of strength. In this spirit, we urge Chinese authorities to release Liu Xiaobo, Xu Zhiyong, and other members of China's New Citizens Movement, and to guarantee the Chinese people the internationally recognized rights and freedoms that all people deserve. We ask for this not just because it's right. As National Security Advisor Susan Rice recently said, when courts imprison political dissidents who merely urge respect for China's own laws, no one in China, including Americans doing business there, can feel secure. When ethnic and religious minorities, such as Tibetans and Uyghurs, are denied their fundamental freedoms, the trust that holds diverse societies together is undermined. In other words, as China grows more integrated with the world, its economic, its environmental, its security problems become our problems too. And those kinds of problems only get solved when governments allow civil society to flourish, and judges to judge, and journalists to write, and people to communicate freely without interference of political leaders. While it's the Chinese people who have the most to gain by seeing those things happen, we have enormous stake in America as well. In his statement to the Chinese court that convicted him in 2009 and that was later read at the Nobel Peace Prize ceremony the following year, Liu Xiaobo wrote, "20 years have passed, but the ghosts of June 4th have not yet been laid to rest." The enormous effort the Chinese government makes to suppress the memory of that event only proves one thing: how much ordinary Chinese people still insist on discussing it, and how much they want not just to remember the past, but to shape their future. So long as they ask for that basic right, the United States will continue to stand with them. It's in our nature, and it's in our interest.
I was with Nancy Pelosi and many others who are with us today on December the 10th, 2010 in Oslo, when Liu Xiaobo was presented with the Nobel Peace Prize in absentia because, of course, he was in prison. It was the first time since 1936 that no one was present to accept the prize. The occasion is vividly engraved in our memories. The massive audience rising in repeated standing ovations as Lee Woolman read from the closing statement at Liu's trial, "I have no enemies," with his empty chair of honor constituting a powerful indictment of the regime that had imprisoned him and that continues to imprison him. There is no one who is more deserving of this tribute on the 25th anniversary of Tiananmen Square than Liu Xiaobo, because he has been an inspiration, an intellectual and a moral inspiration to all of the people in China who believe in democracy over these past 25 years. And he's just not the principal author of Charter 08, but he put himself forward to be the first person to accept the punishment that everyone expected that the Chinese government would deliver for people who signed Charter 08. And he's been the foremost advocate of the democratic principles contained in the Charter, never more eloquently stated than in the closing statement of his trial, which is outside, on the table outside, when he said that, "I look forward to the day when my country is a land of freedom of expression, where different values, ideals, beliefs, political views can both compete with each other and peacefully coexist, and where every citizen can state political views without fear, and where no one can, under any circumstances, suffer political persecution for voicing divergent political views. I hope that I will be the last of China's endless literary inquisitions, and that from now on, no one will be incriminated because of speech."
This is not the first time that Liu has been unable to claim an award recognizing his courage and strength. As was mentioned by Carl, Liu continues to sit in a Chinese prison for his role as an organizer and signer of Charter 08. We are reminded of an empty chair in Oslo. It was, whatever the Chinese government thought they were doing, it backfired, because it was a scene that went round the world, that this man would be so honored with the Nobel Prize, a prize that had been received by Elie Wiesel, Mother Teresa, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Nelson Mandela, Dr. Martin Luther King. The list of champions goes on and on. He was in their company, they were in his company, and he could not be there. It was a seat that the Chinese government refused to allow him to fill. And now, then as now, Liu's absence could not be silenced because of the power of his ideas. As Liu once proclaimed, freedom of expression is the foundation of human rights, the source of humanity, the mother of truth. To strangle freedom of speech is to trample on human rights, stifle humanity, and suppress truth. And as Carl said, Lee Woolman read his statement, I have no enemies and no hatred, he said, of those who imprisoned him. I hope to be able to transcend my personal experiences to counter the regime's hostility with utmost goodwill and dispel hatred with love. Wow, Frank said something. These statements are a definition of compassion and character and strength, a reflection that no empty chair can suppress the will of Liu Xiaobo and all who yearn for freedom. As we mark the 25th anniversary, as we all did earlier today and yesterday on the floor of the House, and will continue until next week, remember all those who have left empty chairs because they stood up and spoke out against the abuses of the Chinese government, whether it was about abuses in China or in Tibet. 25 years later, can you believe, Frank, 25 years we've been making this fight? 25 years later, their spirit and their inspiration endures. They're so strong in their hearts and minds, and those continuing the struggle both in China and around the world. We must support them. We lose all moral authority to talk about human rights any place in the world if we are silent in terms of human rights in China and Tibet because of China's size and economy and all the rest. We must support them. We must remember that the spirit of freedom is alive and well, and China's leaders know it and they fear it. They live in fear of it every day with their censorship and imprisonment of men and women like Liu Xiaobo. We will continue the bipartisan call for Liu's release and for greater reforms in China.